Hi there. My name is Rusty Schweickart. I think you already met me, but one of the things that you're going to notice here during this live broadcast from Asteroid Day is that I'm not the only astronaut here. We have an astronaut panel with us, and I'd like to have each of them tell you just a bit about, how they're involved in it. Why? Actually, the first person here is Mathias Maurer from the European Space Agency, and I'm going to ask each person in turn how they got interested in space and their experience as an astronaut, although Mathias has that in front of him to look forward to. And then he'll come back to me and I'll tell you a few words about Apollo 9. But you're going to see these astronauts, all through this day. And one of the big questions is, why do we have this mix of asteroids and astronauts together? So, Mathias.
Yeah, so I'm part of an astronaut generation that hopefully continues where you stopped like some 50, 60 years ago with the Apollo missions. And we want to return to the moon. And on the moon, we have lots of craters. Some of these craters are volcanic craters, others are impact craters, which came from asteroids that impacted there. So part of my astronaut training at ESA is going to an impact crater and to study how such an impact crater was formed. And we have a splendid impact crater in Germany, halfway between Munich and Stuttgart. And even the Apollo astronauts came in the 70s to study there. And that is an asteroid which had a diameter of 1.5 kilometers. It hit there at a speed which is double or 3 times the speed that you guys reached in your rocket, so much faster. And it impacted there, and it left a crater which had a diameter of 28 kilometers. So and then you can go there, and you can climb the church tower of the city of Nördlingen, and you look down, and the town, it's round, and it has exactly the size of the asteroid. And you look at the horizon, everything is flat, and then at the very far end of the horizon, you see the rim. So you actually stand there, and you feel like what it is when an asteroid impacts. And so that left a very deep impression on me.
A deeper impression on Germany, but nevertheless. Well, Ed Lou is next in line over there. And Ed, talk a little bit about how many times you've flown into space and how you got interested in asteroids as an astronaut.
Thanks, Rusty. I had the privilege of flying the space shuttle a couple of times. And then following the Columbia accident, I was selected to fly a Soyuz to the International Space Station with a 2-person crew. And I spent 6 months on the space station in 2003. And our crew, as I mentioned, was just 2 people, so it was a little bit lonely up there. But I did have some time, and my hobby up there became taking photographs of the Earth. And but in addition to taking photographs of the Earth, I also like to take photographs of the moon and Mars, but in particular the moon. I used to love to take pictures of it as it rose or set. And you couldn't help but think, as you looked at all the craters on the surface of the moon, the moon is just covered in craters. And the majority of these are impact craters. And then you think to yourself, wow, the Earth has actually been hit more often than the moon by a lot. It just has greater surface area. And it also attracts, because of its stronger gravity, it collects slightly more asteroids. And you realize that the Earth doesn't have as many visible scars because they get erased by the oceans and by the weather and so on, plate tectonics. But you can still see large asteroid craters. And I used to think a little bit about the fact that, hey, at some point, we're going to have to do something about this. At some point, we're going to be faced with an asteroid that we hopefully know in advance is going to hit us. And if I think of all of the space technology that I was riding in at the moment, and that we've all had the privilege of being involved with, that technology can actually help protect the Earth. And so it's become my life's work since then to help make that happen.
Yeah, this asteroid impacts are, in some sense, a natural hazard in the same way that hurricanes and floods and that kind of thing are, except that it happens to be a cosmic natural hazard. But nevertheless, it's a natural hazard. And Dorin, you flew with the Russian program, or the Soviet program, actually, back then, and tell us just
7 years ago.
Yeah, how long?
So in 1981, I flew for 8 days on board Soyuz 40.
Yeah.
Was the last Soyuz of the first generation, and Salyut 6 space station. So I accomplished a lot of experiments on behalf of my country, and I had a great opportunity to admire the Earth from up there. And it just generates a very, very strange and wonderful feeling. When you see the whole planet from one side or the other side, from one horizon to another horizon, you just feel the responsibility to protect it, because you see a lot of wounds on the planet, and you understand what the action of different people, organizations did down there, and you understand that not all of them, they are good for the future of the planet, for the future of our generations. And you feel really the responsibility to share this information together with all other people with the same vision of the Earth, and to do things. Such way I became a member of the Association of Space Explorers. All of us, we share the same image of the Earth, the same responsibility, and most of us want and try to live not only in the past, but live in the present, in the future. So we, as citizens of the planet, live in the future and take the responsibility to deal with asteroids. By instance, in the framework of our association, you led the committee on near-Earth objects, and to act together for the benefit of the humanity. Such way I was attracted by the asteroids. When I found out, starting with that committee founded by you, when I found out what means near-Earth objects, what could be the consequences of hitting the Earth by such big space objects, I really wanted to have more and more information. I became accountant of all these things, and I tried to promote at the scientific level as much as I could, but especially at the political level of these problems. And I got involved with the United Nations. Just by coincidence, I represented my country in the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space, and then I helped the Association of Space Explorers become an observer member of the committee and promote all other studies as working documents of the UN.
Right. I think it's a very natural thing for astronauts to identify with this whole issue of asteroids, in particular impacts, but even the opportunities to explore in the future, going further out than the moon to the asteroids. All of us, I think, flying around the Earth day after day, hour and a half to go all the way around, we develop an identity with the planet. And I think, I'm sure I speak for everyone, that I feel, number one, I'm a citizen of the planet. Number two, I happen to be an American as well, a number of other things, but in the hierarchy. But number one, we have this identity with the whole planet because we've flown around it, which allowed us to form our organization, but also many of the things that we do in space, rendezvous, etc., very similar to looking at the asteroids and realizing that they rendezvous with Earth from time to time, but they don't stop. You know, they hit us. So this is something which it seems to me is very natural for the astronauts to be part of, and it's why there are so many of the astronauts involved in this whole issue of asteroids and asteroid technology, planetary defense, etc. I flew on Apollo 9, and one of the first impressions I had of asteroids was looking down when we were very well dark adapted and seeing asteroids hit the Earth below us, burning up in the atmosphere. And at first we couldn't figure out what were those flashes of light. And then, of course, we realized, oh, we're seeing asteroids that had come down past us on the way to hitting the Earth. So that was sort of my first bit of introduction. But you are going to see us throughout the day on various panels, and I hope you enjoy the perspective that we bring to this, as well as some of the technology and other work that we do geopolitically, as Dorin said. We're going to break now, and I'm going to turn this over to Aaron Burnett from CNN, who's going to show a very interesting clip on asteroids from their perspective.